Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Big Kris Live, the live stream and then the podcast. Available, of course, at deanblundell.com, my good friend over there, good friends and friend, Dean, and available always on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please, if you're headed over there, give us a rating, too. We have 3 5-star ratings, but, you know, I'll take more ratings with less stars. If you want to give me a 4, 3, or 2, if you actually feel that way, that's fine. I'll accept it. I'll accept your judgment. My guest with us via Zoom is Jesse Modz. Hello, Jesse.
What's going on, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm very, very well. So, first of all, Jesse is on the podcast, but I originally reached out to him and I was like, hey, man, you're really good buddies with Bret the Hitman Hart. Do you think you could get him to come on my podcast? You must fucking hear that all the time because you're so, like, publicly friendly with him. Like, you're at his house for Thanksgiving and stuff, and it's on Instagram. You must have a million people trying to get you to hook him up.
Yeah, you know what? That is probably one of the biggest requests I have from people is, hey, can you get me in touch with Bret Hart?
Yeah.
And usually he's like super eager to do whatever. And I think he's just kind of taking a little break right now in the pandemic. And I could probably get you with him later. But yeah, everybody wants a piece of Bret Hart. They want autographs. They want pictures. They want to know where he lives. What does he smell like? And usually I can answer all of those questions, to be honest. But
that's cool. Well, I also had an episode a while back called What's the Deal with Wrestling? Because I never understood it. Never got the appeal. Never quite understood what the fancy was. But I know you're a huge fan, too, obviously.
Well, it's funny, man, because like everyone thinks I'm a massive wrestling fan just because I have some friends that are former professional wrestlers. But I haven't watched professional wrestling probably since WrestleMania came to Toronto in like the early 2000s. Like that was the last time I remember watching wrestling. And then I've gone so many years without it, but I think that's what makes my love for the old wrestlers so strong is because like, that's all I know. I don't know the new guys. Like when I was watching wrestling, John Cena wasn't even a guy, you know, it was the Attitude Era. And then that was pretty much it for me. So I still remember and love all the old dudes. And I've got a chance to hang out with them in some weird situations. Like I could tell you some stories about how I got together with Bret. But I remember last summer, I was hanging out at Bret's house and it was me, Bret Hart, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Terry Cahill from FUBAR.
Right.
And I'm just like looking around at my surroundings. I'm like, how the hell did I get here with these guys in this moment right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've had moments like that myself, and you know, you can't be a hater when you've had those moments to hang out with people that you've idolized. Like, you know, I did the music video with the Trues, and I got to do that experience, and you know, I've had some close encounters with celebrities that have been great. You're like very much like you with your wrestling posse. There was you know, me getting to go into the studio with the Trues with my bagpipes, and then Gordy Johnson from Big Sugar was the producer, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? Like, yeah, I mean, that's a similar thing, but just for wrestling.
It's one of the coolest perks about radio, man. Anytime somebody like says, you know, what's so cool about your job? What's the best part about being on the radio is you get to connect with your heroes. And like, you know, when I was a little kid, I used to, you know, go to these wrestling events. And I remember being like 5 years old, going down the front row of Maple Leaf Gardens, and, you know, Bret Hart's music used to hit and he used to like walk and do his strut. And I don't know if you remember, but he always wore the glasses and he would pick a kid in the crowd to give the glasses to. And I would go right down to the front, try to get the glasses from Bret, never got them. And I remember about 2 winters ago, over the Christmas holidays, I was drinking at his house. I was in his kitchen. It was really late. I had way too much to drink. And I remember just like slurring my words. And I said like, Bret, do you have any glasses? And he said, yeah, he had a couple. And I said, go get them. And somebody went to Bret's like back office and got me his glasses. And they brought him out and I had Bret, you know, he signed them for me. And I said, nope. And I told his son, Dallas, I said, get the Bluetooth going, play Bret's music. And I want you, Bret, to put them on me like I'm like a 5-year-old kid. And I don't know why he did it. More embarrassing for me than anybody. But we literally like cranked Bret's theme song in his kitchen. And I had him put the glasses on me like I was 5 years old. I actually held him like just across from me over there. Yeah.
So that was your like initial meeting. That was the first. No.
So my initial meeting with Bret Hart was actually like pretty coincidental. I got to Calgary, and my first like big radio bit was I gotta find Bret Hart. I gotta meet Bret Hart.
like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah. So I had no connections with him whatsoever. I just knew that he lived in Calgary, and I actually did this bit where I watched the old Bret Hart documentary in front of the old Hart House in Calgary, and it was like a stupid bit, but it was just fun for me to like watch a video about Bret Hart back in the day in front of his old house. Very strange looking back on it that I did that, but anyways.
Yeah.
And then word got out in town that like I was looking for him, and I had a buddy at a dealership who was like, hey, I'm going to host this thing with Bret Hart. Do you want to host it with him? And I was like, fuck yeah. So I met him, but it was really just like a handshake and a hello, nice to meet you. We took a picture, and that was it. But then your audience might be familiar with Jerry Forbes, longtime radio guy out in Calgary.
Right.
Legend. He was just on the podcast with Dean Blundell. I watched that whole thing not too long ago.
Legend.
And him and Bret. Sorry, go ahead.
Legend. Yeah, total legend. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jerry and Bret were boys like back in the day. So when Jerry was doing his retirement, I was tasked with like going around to some local celebrities and getting some video of them just saying like, hey, Jared, thanks for the career in Calgary. We appreciate you. Good luck in your retirement. And I got tasked with trying to find Bret Hart. So I did some research, found a way to get a hold of him. I did. And we were going to film this video. And I thought we would like meet at the station. But he said, hey, why don't you film it at my house? And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, okay. So I go out to Bret's house. He lives in this beautiful property, like in Calgary. It's one of the most unbelievable areas in the city. And I drive up, and I'm like literally like sweating, shaking, like a kid. And I've been doing this for a long time, man. You and I, anyone in this business has met a lot of people.
Yeah, but we all get nervous. We all have those moments.
Yeah. And this was my moment, man. I remember sitting in this long ass driveway, and I was just sitting there like, holy shit, like I'm at Bret Hart's house right now. So we go in, we record all of our stuff, and it was like 15 minutes, and I got my boots on, and I'm literally like saying goodbye. And then I have this thing in my brain that goes like, you're at his house, you'll never be back here again. Ask him if he can show you some shit. So I literally got my jacket on, saying goodbye, and I just say, hey, Bret, like, can I check out your basement? Because I heard this like legend of his basement and all the memorabilia he has. And sure enough, no problem. Take my boots off, and we spent probably like an hour just like going through memorabilia, and he showed me like the belts he's won. I was taking pictures with that, and we came by a table hockey, and he's got all these like different old school table hockey, not the bubble shit, like old big ass wooden table hockey from like the 60s and 70s, and they're from the old Hart House.
Yeah.
With Bret's dad. And I just like said like, what's this about? And he's like, oh, I got this table hockey league. And jokingly, I said, if you ever need a guy in your league, let me know. And that was in March. And then
Have you ever played table hockey competitively in a league ever? You just threw that out there.
Never. I just said, if you ever need a guy, you let me know. And he kind of just like, yeah, okay, buddy. And he took my number, and that was it. And like I said, I played the bubble hockey before, just like the stupid shit that you have, the Wayne Gretzky snap hockey where you used to be able to raise the puck anyways.
Yeah.
March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November comes. I haven't heard from Bret at all. I get a text saying, are you still in for table hockey? I couldn't fucking believe it. He's like, it starts tomorrow. So anyways, I ended up going the next day. I joined this like table hockey league. He's got referees, statisticians that come in. It's like a full on league. Like it's not a joke. It's like very serious. I come in dead last every year. And that was it, man. I became buddies with his kids and his family. And I'm so gracious to that entire family, the Harts. They've treated me like a long lost sibling or friend that I didn't have moving to Calgary, man. They were like the first family I kind of connected with when I moved out here.
Yeah. That's amazing, dude. That's such a cool story. And it's so genuine too. Like you can really see it's not like staged Instagram pics. You guys are all family now. Yeah. It's a good word for it, man. It's great.
It's cool, dude. Yeah. I never thought that would happen, but like, man, one last thing on that, but my grandfather, I grew up with my grandparents, my grandmother and my grandfather raised me. And that's how I got into wrestling. And my grandma just passed away recently, but she thought it was so cool that I was always over there. So my grandpa came down this summer, and he would never ask. He's in his 70s. He would never ask to go see Brett, but I know he thought it would be cool. So I just text Brett. I go, hey, Brett, my grandpa's in town from Toronto. He'd love to meet you. Can we do something? He's like, yeah, bring him on over. I'll have lunch ready. So me and my kids and my grandfather went over to Brett's house, and he had this like beautiful lunch ready for us. And he's asking my grandpa what his favorite matches are. And my grandpa's like, oh, I remember you and Undertaker back in the day. So Brett tells his wife, Steph, to put the old Survivor Series on with Bret Hart and the Undertaker. And he literally sat there with a remote control and like would play 30 seconds of the match, tell my grandpa like what was going on in their heads. Like, hey, I'm whispering to Taker, go against the ropes. He literally like took my grandpa through every step of the match. And it was one of the coolest moments, man. I just sat there and watched the two of them watch the match and shoot the shit, man. But that family and that dude, just like unbelievable people. They say like never meet your heroes, man. And then I met mine, and it was just like the greatest experience.
Yeah, he could have turned out to be a real asshole. He really could have been. There's like a 50-50 chance there whenever you meet your heroes. Maybe even a worse than 50-50 chance.
I'll save this for another day, but when you talk about meeting people that you were excited to and it would go south, I'll tell you the story about Jake the Snake another day.
Oh, no.
Not as good as the meeting with Bret Hart.
Right. Well, Jesse, Modz, what's the full version of that again?
So my actual last name is Modzelewski. So it's a big, long 11-letter Polish last name. And when I was in grade 7, they just started calling me Modz, and it just stuck.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was thinking of changing mine to Kris Bawdz. No one gets my last name right either, man.
The Bawdz and Modz show. We'll start that up.
It's deadly. That's too good. That's too deadly. Especially with that backdrop you've got, man. Your bar is killer. I see it all the time on Instagram. Like, and who's that guitar? What is that guitar over your shoulder there?
So that is something that Billy Talent gave me. It's just a guitar signed by all those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some cool stuff, man. Like, when you're in this business and radio, as you know, like you take it for granted sometimes. And I just started like getting like all these really cool things. And I just like throw it in my storage room, and everyone be like, oh, like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, I got this thing from the Tragically Hip. And they're like, and you're not displaying it. So then over the years, I just started, collecting it all and then displaying it. And then I got like addicted to it, and I just started buying stuff and going on eBay, and I'm like bidding on like Gord Downey letters and signatures. And I've spent way more money than I will ever admit on my basement and the shit I've collected. But I literally, man, I come down in my basement and I just sit here and like, I'll give you like a quick little, like,
yeah.
I got memorabilia literally like everywhere.
Every square inch. There's not very much space for anything now.
Yeah. It's like, I just got tons of whatever, but I just love coming down here and just like chilling and looking at the shit. And it's cool, man. Like some people got like sports basements and, oh, did I lose you there?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're not too good on the tech side over here. Yeah, some people got like sports basements and shit like that, and I just decided to go with like rock and roll.
That's all right, man. It's a good look. I just love that you're killing it, man. You're absolutely killing it. CJ92 in Calgary, right, is your radio station in the mornings. And you mentioned Jerry Forbes. He was this legendary guy who was there prior. And now you got to fill his shoes, basically. There was like a transition of power, a peaceful transition.
Yeah, which you don't get too often in this industry. Myself and my co-host JD Lewis were basically given the keys to a castle that man built. And I really had some hesitations coming out here at first, because before I got out here, I was at Hits FM in Niagara, station I grew up on. My whole family's from around that area. Loved everything about that. And the thought of like going to a major market that I've never been to before and replacing a legend like Jerry Forbes. And for people that don't understand radio or know it as well as you and I do, like legend gets thrown around a lot. Jerry Forbes is absolutely a legend.
Legitimate.
In our business, especially for the kind of radio that you and I do, man, just like rock radio. He paved the way for us. And I was like, how could I possibly go to Calgary and step in for a man like that? But the way they did it over here at Hits, man, Stu Myers and Chad Martin, they did it so perfect with Jerry, where they basically gave us a year with him, a year where Jerry went on the radio every day and said just like how good as shit we are and how we're good people. And The last day Jerry was on the air, man, we had the biggest fucking party ever. He cried on the radio and he's like, these are my guys and they're your guys now, Calgary. And if he didn't do that for us, I would be fired by now because we wouldn't have any listeners. But because he gave us the blessing to do what we do, I owe that guy so much, man, for letting us come out here and basically do his gig.
Yeah. It's so rare that you see that, like you say. I don't think I can't think of very many other times that I've seen something like that. That speaks to the caliber of person you are, and of course, the caliber of person that Jerry is as well. But now you're slaying it. How many years have you been without Jerry? It's been 2 years, just
3. We just crossed the 3-year thing, and man, it's really cool for me to hear you say that because
you're killing it, man.
It's awesome for me to hear you say that because I don't know if I'm going off track with where you were going, but I remember I was in Prince George, British Columbia. I was doing a morning show out there, and I had the opportunity to go to Kingston. And I remember going to Kingston, and I was at this whatever station. No one gave a shit about it. I showed up, and I was like, wow, like nobody gives a shit about this station. I couldn't believe it. And I was going up against you at K-Rock. And I remember everyone being like, Big Kris is the guy. Big Kris, Big Kris, Big Kris. And I'm like, I don't know who the hell Big Kris is, and I'm coming in here and I'm going to fucking do my thing. And I did my thing, and not one person listened. I had no listeners. Our morning show, we didn't talk to anyone. I felt like I was talking to the wall because you were the king of that town, man. And
dude,
it was really cool for me to like, it was cool for me to like battle you, but there was no battle. It was like a bunch of ants going up against the big dogs.
Well,
and I was so happy to get out of there and get away from you because you just were killing that market.
Thanks, dude. That's so nice of you to say, but also like credit to just like there's a certain energy about K-Rock in Kingston that,
oh yeah,
you know, that's just a juggernaut. And I was lucky to have that sort of juggernaut or that vibe on my side, you know, and that's an ally that really wins the day. You know, I was a piece during my time there, but you know, maybe a good big piece or a very visible piece, but you know, like it's more than that. That station is a rock, right? So they were the first rock station that Kingston ever had. People remembered that, and they had a lot of years of dominance that just sort of set them up for, you know, like the Coca-Cola, right? You know, Pepsi is always number 2 to Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is always number 1.
Do you remember the on-air battle that we had over the Glorious Sons? Do you remember that incident that happened where everyone got in shit?
No.
so I was at
memory.
a classic rock. I was at a classic rock station in Kingston, and you know it was what it was. It was cool. Like people liked it, I guess. But like I'm a rock guy, and I loved what you guys were doing. I always wanted to be a part of K-Rock and what you guys were doing, but I wasn't, and that was cool. I was just doing my best.
Yeah.
And this band, the Glorious Sons, comes around, and they're nothing at that point. No one knows really who they are. They had just won like the Whiskey Rocks contest, and they had the song Mama. And everybody was all over Mama. They're from Kingston. These are our boys, but we didn't play them at FM 96. So I remember reaching out to them personally, their manager at the time. And I was like, hey, I'd love to book the Glorious Sons in. And we did get them in once. We played a couple of their tunes, whatever. And we were supposed to book them for this performance. And they were coming in at like 7 a.m. or whatever it was to do what they were doing. And I get a text message at like a voicemail at like 6:50 saying like, hey, just so you know, unfortunately, the Glorious Sons can't make it in. Something to do with K-Rock getting upset, blah, 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 blah. And they were talking about how basically you guys stepped in and were like, no, you're not doing their show. You're going to do ours. Something along those lines. The details are a little shady right now. And I remember playing the voicemail and being like, screw Big Kris and K-Rock. Like, this, look what they're doing to us, blah, 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 blah. And I remember getting yelled at by their management, by my boss, by everybody. And it's funny that you didn't even hear it because I wouldn't expect you to because they're just little things in your guys'
it wasn't
world.
like that. I don't. I do remember hearing something about us leveraging the record label or the management to get our way. I do remember something like that. Yeah, now that I think about it.
Yeah, because I remember we were trying to get them, and then you guys came in and just went nope, and they didn't come.
That was always a deciding factor, no matter what radio station. And this may be a little too inside, but maybe it's inside that people are interested in. In that sometimes the deciding factor can be that how often you spin a band's songs. determines who they're gonna, and we were playing the crap out of their music, right? So, that sometimes is the most important factor that determines leverage in some cases.
And guess how many times we played the Glorious Sons?
None, eh? Yeah.
0.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what happens. That's the way she goes.
Yeah.
But
anyways, that was just a long-winded story to say. It's cool for you to say that because I remember going into Kingston, not knowing who you were, and I found out real friggin' quick who you and K-Rock were.
Dude, looking to see, honestly, man, who's on top now, though? I feel like that, Jesse. You're really killing it. Calgary is an awesome city. I don't know anything about it, but I hear nothing but great things. What have you experienced since you've got there? Obviously Bret Hart. I mean, listen, I dropped wrestling in the first couple of minutes and you went on for 10 minutes. But I mean, other than wrestling or Bret Hart related things, what has been some highlights since you got there to Calgary? Because it's a great city. It's a big city with lots to do.
Dude, it is so awesome out here, man. The people are just so cool and chill and laid back. And what a cliche thing to say, but when you got the mountains, I can be from my house to a bar in Canmore, Alberta in 45 minutes. And Canmore is about 15 minutes away from Banff. So if you don't know Canmore, you'll definitely know Banff. It's the most beautiful place in the history of the world. And I haven't been anywhere in the world. I'm just assuming because I go to Banff and Canmore all the time. That's basically been the theme of my 4 years here is I do the radio show and I hang out at my house with my fiance and my 2 kids, and we go to the mountains. And if I didn't have the mountains, I don't know if I would love Calgary as much, but it's just a part of this city. It's literally the coolest thing, man. Just coming out here, experiencing the people, going to the mountains. It's really just a different way of life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, man. It's awesome out here.
Yeah, well, I see the Instagrams and the beautiful, I mean, how far is Canmore? Because I see you're out in Canmore, or you're out in all these different, kind of places. I'm like, wow, how far of a drive is that? But it seems like it's pretty handy. You're always out there in the beautiful scenery.
Yeah, it's less than an hour. So, I've literally, wanted a coffee, and I just want to go for a drive and think about my show or whatever, and I'll drive to Canmore, the most beautiful drive ever, grab a coffee, and then turn and burn home. And I can usually do it in 2 hours. Wow. And it is a lot of driving, but it's when you're driving in that beautiful of scenery, it goes by so quick because all you do is just look around. I'm surprised I haven't been in an accident since I've been going out there.
Yeah. What's the most, okay. So obviously there's some beautiful parts and there's some, what's the more seedier, funnier, danker, what's the most Alberta thing?
Well, a lot of the stereotypes and the cliches are very true. There are a hell of a lot of pickup trucks. It's funny because you'll notice my phone glitching every now and then. I was going to buy a truck, just caving in, and they keep calling me to come buy it. So I keep declining the call right now. There's a lot of pickup trucks. But what is cool about Alberta, man, is it's just a really hard-working city. Everybody here just wants to work. They want to grind. They want to make money. They want to have a good future. But it's really troubling right now because oil is what drove the city for so many years. Yeah. That's in the toilet. So to be honest, man, it's tough for a lot of people right now because a lot of people are hurting. A lot of people are looking for their next paycheck, their next meal. We do a thing called the CJ92 Kids Fund on our radio station. It's something that Jerry Forbes started. And we, give away hundreds of thousands of dollars to families over X amount of years. And I've never seen need and more people, reluctantly putting their hand out asking for assistance because this city that was once thriving on oil is now, declining because of it. And you got to feel for it, man. So it's cool because everybody comes together though in Calgary. I noticed that more than anywhere I've ever worked is, if somebody puts their hand up, you got 50 people waiting in line to help that person. And it's just such a giving city. It really warms your heart in a weird way when you're doing charity events and you can ask for 1 second and everybody steps up to help.
50 people are putting their hand up to help and 50 pickup trucks with those 50 hands as well. And
if you need to move, you got about 100 people you can call.
That's good. Yeah. Cause it's such a rarity here in the GTA in Ontario, anywhere in Ontario really is having a buddy with a pickup truck. That's few and far between. And buddies with pickup trucks are strained as it is. They don't want to help you move.
Oh, totally, man. One thing I do, I'm an Ontario boy. What I've been trying to do since I got here and obviously the last year and a bit, or whatever hasn't worked my way. But I've been trying to bring the music scene to Calgary, like just try my best to, talk about local music and get the bands through to get out here. But man, the music scene out here is hurting like real bad.
Yeah.
Bands don't want to come here. It's too far of a drive in between cities. So like the music scene here, man, could learn a lot from a place like Ontario. If that ever came to Calgary, I would never want to leave. But I would love for some more tunes and shows to roll through the city.
Man, you want to talk music scenes. This is a conversation that keeps coming up on the podcast, but Jeff Woods and I had a lengthy conversation about the Hamilton music scene. And obviously you and St. Catharines at Hits, you probably had your exposure to the Hamilton scene. What a fucking scene. Yeah.
I love the music scene in that area, Hamilton, Niagara, obviously Toronto. Like what was cool is like you could go to Guelph and see the Trews. Like you could go to these small little towns and see some wicked bands. Here in Calgary, like you're waiting, man. Like you're waiting like sometimes 6 months before a big act will roll through. And I saw some of the podcast with Jeff Woods, and that guy's voice, man, I'm sure he's so sick of hearing it, but anytime you hear that voice, like, it's just like, how is this even a human being that's putting that out of his body?
I know, man. He's a gem, really. He's a gem.
I got to party with him one time, and it was the most like surreal thing ever. I was at CMW, and I was just like drinking, and I'm like, as you could tell from my Bret Hart story, I love talking to people that I grew up looking at and watching and listening to. And I'm not ashamed. Like people out here always joke and bust my balls about it, but like I'll ask for an autograph, I'll ask for a picture, I'll ask to go for a beer with celebrities or people I don't know, because I love to hear the stories. And for me, it's like wow, that's cool. And I remember seeing Jeff Woods at the bar at CMW. And I was like, Jeff, let me buy you a beer. And he let me. And next thing you know, we're out hanging out. And he took me to like the weirdest bar ever in Toronto at like 1 a.m. And then we left at like 5 a.m. Like it was one of those after hour weird bars.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we ran, you might not remember because I know you're a bit older than me, but we ran into PJ from YTV. Do you remember that guy?
Oh, PJ, oh no, I remember PJ Phil and PJ Gord. But...
Yes, PJ Phil or whatever. Yeah, Phil, whatever.
Yeah, PJ Phil. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And me, Jeff Woods, and that Phil guy from YTV hung out at this bar till 5 a.m. And I remember like being like, I'm not even on drugs. Like, what is happening? Where am I? That's my only time ever meeting Jeff, but I'll never forget it. Just rolling around. Oh, this is so stupid, but we were in a cab with Jeff, and I get hammered and just obnoxious and whatever. And I remember making the cab driver put on a classic rock station, probably Q107. And I made Jeff backsell the songs on the way to the bar. Yeah.
Well, he had some stuff at my house here. He stored for his new studio. He stored a bunch of stuff. I can't remember. It was like shelving and stuff. He had it delivered to my front vestibule. He came to pick it up, and I forgot how much of a crush my wife has on his voice. And when she found out he was in the driveway, dude, I was like, you get upstairs. Don't you come out into the driveway. I just couldn't, you know what I mean? Like she is, all women, I think, just can't help but fall for that voice of his, even men.
And you know, one of the cliche things in radio is like, let's hear your radio voice. And
nice.
If you're good enough in the business and you make it far enough, like you don't really have a radio voice. I always thought Jeff did. And he doesn't. Like that's how he talks.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it seems surreal that he's a reality or that he's for real.
Do you think it's a Gilbert Godfrey thing? Like, you know, Gilbert Godfrey, he's always on, and then if you hear him actually talk, that's not his voice. Is that Jeff Woods?
No way. No, like he has like a ponytail, but he takes it off and hangs it up at the front door when he comes home.
Yeah.
No. I think that's full time, man. There's no way.
No wonder he's had so many girlfriends and wives over the years. He just can't get enough of them.
I know, right? Well, you know, funnier people than me have said, you know, like it must be crazy being his wife because he could just say, hey, pass the ketchup. And she would just like clear the table and be like, let's get it on right now.
Yeah.
On the topic of getting it on, Jesse, I'm going to be a dad for the first time this April.
Congratulations.
And whoa, hang on. Siri's talking to me here. What's going on there, Siri? I didn't
take this time to grab a beer.
Yeah, do it, man. Yeah, I'm going to be a dad this April for the first time. I'm going to be 40 April 2nd, and then I'm going to be a dad. The due date's April 11th, man. And so I know that I remember you had kids when you were much younger. Like I remember
Yeah.
you being kind of like a younger dad, like 21, 22.
Yeah, I was 22 when my
That
fiance got pregnant, and then I think I was like 20. I had my son in Kingston on St. Patrick's Day, actually.
Yeah, that must have sucked, man. Like having a kids that young. I feel like being an old dad is the best. I got all the good shit out of the way. Like
So it okay. So I remember it's funny because like I'm still engaged right now. I was supposed to get married last year, but because of COVID,
oh yeah. Shit.
And when I had met my fiance Chelsea, I met her at my first radio gig in Lac La Biche, Alberta. It's a town of 3,000 people. She was like the only hot chick there. I was like, okay, that's mine. We were together for like literally, man, like a handful of months, and she got pregnant. So I was like, okay, well, here we go. And I always wanted to be a dad, so I was just like, you know what? Let's just embrace it and make it the best that it possibly was. So I was a dad very young, making absolutely no money. Whatever amount of money that is small that you think I was making in Kingston, it was probably half of that. And I just remember being like, well, let's just make this work. And it was so cool, man. Like having a kid and like being a dad, it is the greatest experience you'll ever have, no matter what experiences you've had in your life. And the only way I can describe it to a dad to me is you think it's going to be cool. You think it's going to be awesome, but you're not a dad right now. Your wife is a mom already because she's got that baby in her belly. She thinks like a mom. She already acts like a mom. When you're waiting for that baby to be born, you're still big Kris, just chilling. I'm still Jesse Modz hanging out. But the second that baby is born, like literally the second, even the drive to the hospital, you're still just big Kris. The second that baby's born, man, light switch goes off and you're just dad now. And it was the most surreal experience, like raising a kid. By the way, the first 2 years, the baby doesn't want anything to do with you, like nothing. You were useless to that baby.
I didn't have any milk. I'm useless. Yeah,
nothing. But man, you're gonna absolutely love it, especially raising a kid in our industry the way you can. I remember bringing my son on stage in front of like 40,000 people at shows in the front hamper, because I couldn't have a babysitter. It's so cool, man. You're gonna love it. And are you stopping at one, or are you gonna have a litter?
That is definitely a no. We are having. She's already talking about. Well, listen, man. I have a schedule. I get inbox invites to online courses. We just wrapped up our 4-course baby feeding course on Zoom last night. I got a few other invites in my calendar, and she's already booked my vasectomy for like April 25th or whatever. Yeah, no, she's
no joke.
Oh, that's a joke. She threatened to, though. I'll tell you, she's ready.
Okay.
She asked me whether I'd thought about it yet, and I was like, well, yeah, I've thought about it for sure, but I didn't think we were in a rush. But I guess we are, according to her. So
that's awesome, man. I'm so pumped for you. It's like every dad listening knows it's just like the most surreal experience, and like all of a sudden you don't matter anymore. Like you don't matter to your wife, you don't matter to your parents, you don't matter to anyone. It's just everything is about that baby. If you thought you were spending $500 a month on your vape, now you're probably spending 50 because you're gonna want to buy your kids all that shit.
Yeah.
It's just like obviously a life-changing experience, and you're gonna absolutely love it.
Well, thanks, man. And you've got two boys, right?
Yeah, Nixon and Max. Do you have a boy or a girl coming?
We got a girl. Yeah, baby girl, and she looks.
Never mind. The whole experience is gonna be different for you then.
Oh yeah, yeah, way different. I don't know why I'm asking guys with boys. It's totally different. I bet you get to nerd out with them. I bet.
Oh man, we hang out, we play video games, they watch like wrestling, so I'll hook them up with some of that kind of stuff. I don't even know how I would go about handling a girl. I have like a young niece, but I would like my brain just naturally resorts to like, oh, I would never want boys chasing my daughter around. I have to fight them all the time. I'm just happy I don't have to deal with that. That's for you to deal with.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But also, like, I've been using like inspiration. So I don't know if you believe in the power of like positive thought, but I've got a background like on my phone. Like you just have like a bunch
Yep.
of, here it is, right? Like, yeah, just a bunch of different, like a collage of pictures of things that I want to happen for myself or come true, right? And one of them is a picture of, I'm too shaky with the damn phone to get it up on the screen there, but is of The Rock having a tea party with his daughter. And of course, there's this giant man and then this little tiny teacup. And I just think that that's the best, man. I don't know what I'm going to do with a daughter, but I'm for sure going to just be down for whatever she wants to do.
That's it, man. They just like dictate what happens. And it's funny because like I'm half joking, but not really. I remember like when my first son was born being like, oh, I just want to do everything. And if I touched him, he screamed. If I tried to hold him, all he wanted was his mom. And I was like, oh, maybe that's just a one-off. My second son, the first like 2 years, all about mom. So I basically was just like sitting back and just watching my son grow up because he wanted nothing to do with me for the first couple of years. Hopefully your daughters are different, but I just found with babies, it's just mom, man. Like they don't care about dad. They just want mom.
Yeah. Do you watch 90 Day Fiancé?
Negative.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, I've never really, I think, like been open about this. I didn't know I had to be, but I love 90 Day Fiancé, and sometimes I get hooked into that TLC loop of just awful television, but in a savage way, I really enjoy it. But there is a character on 90 Day Fiancé. His name is Zaid, and I think you look like Zaid, or Zaid looks like you. I don't know which, but let's pop this up here.
Okay.
There's Zaid right there. Your reaction, Jesse. What is that? You? Or do you feel like you're looking in the mirror, Jesse?
I put it back up. Let me
get in the light there a little.
Oh, I don't know, man.
There's Jesse there.
Okay.
There's that guy there.
Okay, maybe I can see that.
There he is down there in the corner. Is it a toucan?
He's got like a darker face complexion than I do, but
he's from Tasmania, I think. Or no, not from Tasmania, from Tunisia. That's right. Zaid from Tunisia.
I am not from Tunisia, but no. I will Google this guy and I'll try to get some more information on. Maybe my dad was sleeping around or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Did he ever have business in Tunisia in the Middle East?
No, but when my dad used to go to jail, he used to say he was going to South Africa, and I just wouldn't see him for a long time. No joke, true story.
No shit.
So maybe he actually was going to South Africa. Maybe that's what it is.
Is that a hidden history I did not know about your dad? He spent time in the clink.
Oh man, I can't get into this right now, but I grew up with my grandparents for a reason. I grew up with my grandma and my grandpa from 6 years old until I left home for radio. So dad's a good guy now. Let's just put it that way.
All right, that's good. Well, hey, it's all about reformation. That's the whole point, I think.
No, you know what? I'm actually if you bring that up, I'm actually like super proud of my dad. He's been clean and sober for 12, 13 years, something like that. And I didn't really have the greatest relationship with him growing up, and drugs and shit like that can get in the way of relationships with anybody. And my dad just kept going and try to get better. Didn't work. And then finally one day it literally just clicked for him, and he's been good shit, man. That's one reason. One fun fact about me, I've never done drugs, and I never will. Because I saw it growing up, and I just went to myself, you know what? I don't want that, so I'm just never going to do it. So I, not something I've ever partaked in.
Well, and I can say that I've, other than the cannabis, other than that, I'm also in a similar regard. I've never dabbled, I've never dipped, I've never dodged. Oh wait,
yeah,
magic mushrooms. But anyways, that's a whole other story for another time.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, if it grows in the ground, I think it's okay. But regardless, yeah, man. But there's been plenty of opportunities, haven't there? With all the moments we talked off the top of all the people we've met and circles we've traveled, right?
You know what, man? I was I'm gonna reference the Dean Blundell podcast he did with Jerry, because I watched all that and I heard those boys talking about like the golden age of radio, like partying on a Friday and waking up in Los Angeles on a Sunday and all the shit that went on. I've been in radio for 10 years this October, and I've been a part of some like really cool shit, like some parties that like you just know you can never talk about, and it's just like for you in those moments, and those were really awesome.
Yeah.
But I think I missed like the Jerry Forbes, Dean Blundell style parties in radio where that kind of shit happened. Were you a part of that back in the day?
I got a tail end of it. I got a tail end of, you know, where there was, I'll tell one funny story about cocaine use at a radio station where
Let's hear it.
I was filling in on the morning show, and I came in, and of course, you know, when you go in at 4:30 in the morning, it's dead silent. But there was always a couple of people about, somebody I could see, and it was a radio station in Hamilton, so it was Y108, and it had all these glass windows all around the outside in this giant square. And when it was all empty, you could see through all different studios and all the different glass. And all I could see was somebody running around, like full tilt, sprinting around the whole circle of studios. And I was like, what is going on? And there's this dude barefoot who pops in his head in the studio and is like, oh, hey man, what are you doing here? And I'm like, about to do the morning show, filling in today. Oh my God, don't tell anyone I was here. And he was gone.
Yeah.
And that's actually the first time I've told anybody about that. I did keep quiet. That was the first time. But yeah, like there was, you know, emails sent out to staff. You know, we found a sleeping bag in the production studio. You know, word up, you can't sleep at the radio station. You know, you can go anywhere but here. Yeah, there were, you know, I've seen some pretty good parties. Yeah, man. Those are just a couple examples.
I really wish just for the story's sake that like we were doing radio like 25 years ago, just to experience like I've worked with some dudes like Jerry Forbes was telling that story on Dean Blundell's podcast where he had a threesome with two girls and then delivered them to Billy Idol.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like that's
know
hilarious.
That podcast, I listened to it as well. And yeah, there was some pretty wild stuff. And yeah, I never got to experience anything like they were discussing whatsoever.
I will never throw Jerry under the bus, but that story isn't even the tip of the iceberg about what those guys were dealing with back in the day.
And here's you know what? Here's one that's really weird. All right. Here's a really weird one. And this was at a time in my life where I would describe myself. I was like, well, you remember, I was like over 400 pounds. Like I was massive. But for some reason, there was some sort of gravitas that brought women and weird scenarios my way. And this was one of them where there was a guy, a middle-aged dude who was such a big fan of my radio program that he invited me over for dinner to his house and wanted me to meet his daughter, who was like 18, 19, like college age, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
he, and you didn't, I thought you were going to say you went there and now that's your wife.
No, that's no. No. And that was happily ever after.
By the way, like you either got to get really skinny or really fat, because that, like, I always looked at like really fat guys, like 400 or 500 pounds. Like you talk about TLC, my 600-pound life.
Yeah.
When you don't care that much, girls just must go, you know what? That guy's got something going on because he really doesn't give a shit about anything.
Well, and it's true. I didn't give a shit about anything. That was the other thing too. Like it was a punk rock sort of attitude that got me there, where I was like, you know, fuck you. I won't do what you tell me to, you know, Rage Against the Machine, whatever you want to call it.
It just wasn't Coke. It was cake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like, no, I don't, none for me. Thanks. But I'm going to go and eat an entire McCain's cake. You know, like,
I actually remember seeing you. I saw you at the Foo Fighters show where Dave Grohl broke his leg. And that was the first time I ever saw you. Like you were like, I don't mean it like this, but you were like sickly skinny from the last time that I had seen you. Because I saw you in Kingston.
Yeah.
And you know, you're a big guy, big Kris.
Yeah. And
then I remember seeing you at the Foo Fighters and you were just this like little scrawny guy with your hat on. And you were so like, you weren't even you. You were just so nice. I was like, who is this guy in front of me, little Kris?
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was wearing skinny jeans for a while. It was quite a thing. And yeah, I mean, I'm like Jonah Hill now. I need like a suit that changes sizes every fucking 6 minutes. You know, like
Are you still doing the yo-yo thing? Aren't we all?
Well, no, I'm down 17 pounds. I'm back on isogenics again, which is how I got there in the first place. So I've been on for a hard 30. Although I had a burrito for lunch today, that was a no-no, but that's because I'm in between shakes. They haven't come in the mail because of the snowstorm. But anyways, that's an excuse. I could have eaten better choices, but yeah, I'm always trying to get back to that place where I'm, trying to get back into a super healthy routine or super healthy lifestyle. And there's a lot of things that you can use as crutches or excuses, but at the end of the day, you just got to have willpower. That's really at the bottom.
You know what, bro? How old are you now, Kris?
Going to be 40 in a few weeks.
You're going to be 40 in a few weeks. So none of us are getting any younger, man. I guarantee when your daughter comes into this world, you're going to look at yourself and you're going to look at her. You're going to start counting the years in your head, and you're going to go, okay, when she's 20, I'm going to be, and you're going to want to be around. Yeah. And you're going to make that choice, man. Like I lost 30 pounds in September because I put on a bunch of weight for no reason, just living life and drinking beers and whatever. Yeah. And I remember just like one day going like, man, I just want to be there for my kids. And I want to make sure that if I'm not there, it's not for anything that I had no control of. Yeah. And I just remember just like, I'm like, okay, gym, let's go to the gym. Let's work out. Let's make sure that at the very least, I got a shot to be there late in life for my kids. And if you're ever like yo-yoing, man, I don't want to tell everyone to go have a kid to lose weight, but you will look at those kids and go, fuck, I got to get healthy and be around for these little guys or girls or whatever you're having.
That's where I'm at 1,000%. I want to be the Rock at the tea party, but first of all, I need to be able to sit on a child size chair without destroying it. It needs to be able to hold me, so, I need to be able to be a decent sized human being.
And you've got a beautiful wife, right? You don't ever want her to look over and go, wow, like my husband is now 700 pounds. I better take off. You got to keep her around.
That's true. That's the problem. Let me tell you, man, that is the problem with batting up. That is the problem with always, always aiming high, man, is that you have to stay on your A game the whole time. When you know your wife is hotter than you have to stay on your A game. All the time.
I always look at guys in radio, and it's just the funniest thing. Like, look at anybody somewhat successful in our business. All the guys, we're all just like schlubs. Yeah. And then like start digging in our Facebook profile pictures, and you'll see our wives and girlfriends. That's the biggest perk of this business. Screw all the other stuff we talked about. It's that we always get to bat up.
Yeah, it's true.
My wife is 12 points higher than I am.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Easily for me too. Right. But we know it. And we know. Yeah. Here's the other thing that somebody said to me a long time ago, that you can be attractive or you can be a good dancer, but there is nothing better than someone with a good voice who can tell a good story, or it can be funny. But mostly it's about the timbre of a man's voice sometimes that triggers like a genetic deep like ninja thing deep down in there. And I believe that, because you're right. I've seen plenty of good dancers pick up attractive women, but I've seen an equal amount of really great orators, storytellers, life of the party, maybe not a stand-up comedian, but sort of a stand-up comedian. So anyone who's got that sort of personality, I think they've always had an attractive wife, and that really just plays into the radio thing.
One of my best buddies is repulsive. Like, looking at him, like, he's just repulsive. And he's not in radio, not in media. He's a car guy. And I, honest to God, every wife and girlfriend he's ever brought around is like a 15,000 out of 10. And it's because he's so funny and he's got such a good personality. And I always ask them every time, because he's one of my best buddies, I go, what are you doing with him? And it's always the same. He's funny. He's this, he's that. Yeah. Sometimes, man, lucky for you and I, looks do not matter. Thank God. Thank God.
And you know what else doesn't matter? Dick size doesn't matter either. I can attest to it. Right here, man.
Unfortunately saved.
Yeah, there you go. Right. But I had a buddy who used to say to me too, he's like, what is it, man? What do you got under there? What are you packing? There's got to be some other mystery thing. And I'm like, no, man, I think I'm just I don't give a shit, and I'm a good storyteller. That was always sort of my take on it.
I got a question for you, and this is something that we can both bond over. Is we're both rock guys. We're both used to live in Kingston.
Yeah.
How cool was it? And I saw Paul Langlois on your podcast here.
Nice.
How cool was it getting to chum around with those guys when we were in Kingston? I remember, man, I can tell you 10 stories. I was there for a year about just hanging with those dudes and being around those dudes when you grow up idolizing those guys. And next thing you know, you see them at the coffee shop. You see them at a restaurant. They're walking into your studio. The coolest thing ever, eh?
Well, and it was so nonchalant, and that was the thing, that anyone who ever moved to Kingston would always, I could always tell they were a first timer, because it'd be like, hey man, do you know the guys in the hip? Do you think you could get me to meet them sometime? I'm like, look man, just go out in the city. You're going to run into them. Oh, I'm in the lineup at Tim Hortons. Who's that guy with leopard print pants wearing a Civil War jacket? Oh,
Rob Baker.
It's Rob Baker. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who's the only guy in Kingston driving a Tesla? Rob Baker, you know.
Man, I had the honor of calling a Kingston Voyageurs game one time when I was in Kingston, and I was in the stands and I was doing it on FM 96. Don't ask me why we were broadcasting a Voyageurs game for no reason, but we were. And Rob Baker was in the crowd watching the game.
Yeah.
And I remember I sent my intern over at the time, and I was like, hey man, go see if Rob wants to come hang out. So he's like, hey, Mr. Baker, do you want to come on FM 96? And I ended up calling the game, the Junior A game, with Rob Baker. Yeah. I was like, this is the coolest thing. I even remember I had when Paul Langlois was doing a solo record, and he was touring around the stations. I'm sure you guys had him. We had him in FM 96 as well. And,
yeah, the Not Guilty record.
Weekend, the what, sorry?
The Not Guilty record, yeah.
Yeah, really cool record, by the way.
Yeah.
That weekend, I ended up going to see Kris and D at the Merchant in Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there with Gord Sinclair, I think it was. And he fucking comes over. He puts his arm on my back. He brought me a beer. And I couldn't believe, I remember being the most stunned. If there was any podcast I did for like 2 years after that, I'm like, what's your favorite radio moment? I was like, Paul Langlois bought me a beer. Paul Langlois bought me a beer. It was so cool to be able to just like chum around with those guys while living in Kingston. I'm sure you missed that too.
Yeah, I missed the connection with Kingston and how tight I was in with the music scene there. And I almost forgot how ingrained it was that I could just walk down. I lived on Princess Street. I just walked down Princess Street and, you know, oh, there's Brett from the Glorious Sons. And we'd sit there and chat on a bench for 15 minutes. And then, you know, he'd have a smoke and I'd drink a fizzy water or something. And then we'd be on our merry way. Or yeah, exactly. Though there's Paul Langlois at the bar having a beer, or, you know, whatever. There's Rob Baker taking his kids to the movies. You know, it was a million different moments that you could run into these people that just became, I wouldn't say friends, but certainly acquaintances and people that you always enjoyed running into on the street and worked hand in hand with to make the community a better place. And that's the thing you say about like Rob Baker going to a Voyageurs game. Like, what's Voyageurs? Like, are they AA? Like, I don't even remember what status they are. But
I think it was junior A. I think they were junior A hockey. Yeah. He was just there with some friends watching.
Yeah, but they're so supportive of the local community. They go out to the little local hockey games. You know, they'll go out to the Frontenacs in the OHL. They'll go out to the local theater and support the local arts. And I feel like that has done nothing but great things for Kingston. It trickles down in all manners of different ways, right?
And man, they were just like, and they still are. I just haven't seen them in many years now, but they were just such good dudes. I remember Paul Langlois coming on our show one time, and he had the Campfire Liars Club. Yeah. I don't know if that's still running in Kingston.
I think so.
And I was just like, as I've told you a million times in this podcast, just a fan of everything. And I'm always very vocal about that. And he's like, hey, you want to come down to the comedy shop there, Time to Laugh? And he's like, you want to host the event for me? And I was like, yeah. And I went there, and he just like out of nowhere, he could ask anybody in the world would have hosted Paul Langlois' event. And I did it for him. And I was just like, this is so cool. That band, man, above the music, above everything, some of the best people you'll ever meet in rock and roll ever, no matter what country you're in, they are the best people, man.
Yeah, truly they are. And also, speaking of Rob Baker, I believe the next podcast episode, tentatively set for Monday. We'll see. Just waiting for their people to get back to my people. Strippers Union, Rob Baker, Craig Northey. There's a pre-promo, we call it in the business. excited to have them on. Jesse,
That's awesome.
before we wrap things up, this has been an awesome chat, dude. You're welcome back anytime. Maybe we'll bring you in on a panel too. We're going to do panels, different things. But one last question. Who gave you your first look at a porno movie?
My first look at a porno movie. It's funny because I actually talked about this on the radio the other day. The first memory I ever have of a porno would be my dad had like the stereotypical like chest under the bed.
Oh, right. Like
and
a
I
trunk.
remember and I remember like looking for something, and I was young, and I remember like wheeling it out, and you had like the Playboys, which was basically like elegant porn. It'd be like a really like beautiful woman just like kind of showing like a nipple. But then you had Hustler, and I remember like opening up a Hustler, and it was just like bam, next page, bam, next page, bam. That was my first like graphic look at porn. But I remember my first boob.
Okay.
And my first on-screen boob that I ever remember was the girl from Saved by the Bell in that stripper movie she did.
Oh,
Striptease?
No, what it wasn't. Showgirls.
Showgirls. Yes.
Elizabeth Berkley.
Yes.
That
was the first boob I ever saw, and I remember on my dad's old VHS we had that movie, and I would just put it in, watch, put it in, what. That was like my Bambi when I was a kid. It was just Showgirls. That's it.
Bambi. I'll give a shout out to my 8th grade chum, Andy Stanley, who introduced me to my first look at porno. It was actually a stack of various magazines that were hidden in the woods, in the bushes outside of our schoolyard.
That is so funny because every school had that. My school had that as well.
Yeah. So he was the keeper. He knew where they all were. I believe he's the one who brought them there. I have no idea how, but I remember seeing my first was a Swank copy of Swank magazine.
And did you see everything? Was that one of the graphic ones?
Swank
was male on female.
Swank was hardcore. Yeah, that was like it was like quite an introduction. That's like jumping right into the deep end, right there.
No, we should bring back. We should get convenience stores to start putting the porn up again. I remember being like a little kid. You get your candy and you look to see if the person at the Max Milk was there or not, and looking. And if they weren't, you would just go to the magazines, pretend you're looking for something else. And next thing you know, you're at the back digging. That was my favorite.
Well, we had one that actually they weren't too smart with it because the magazine rack was actually in front of a giant glass window. So you could actually go along the back of the outside of the corner store and look through the glass and see the back of the magazines. So you got a full view.
Thank God for porn, eh?
Yeah. It's a lost art, man. Being a kid trying to being a kid trying to score liquor underage, being a kid trying to get porno mags. That's a lost art.
The kids have it way too easy nowadays.
I know, man. Yeah, I mean, they totally do. I mean, they're sexting each other and everything. I was just happy to maybe get a hand job under a bridge with some guy walking his dog that might get a peek. That was like, I was stoked for that.
I'd even take that nowadays, man.
Well, I got a third trimester. I take that too right now.
That's great, buddy.
Jesse Modz. Jesse Modz.
There you go.
Kris Bawdz. I'm going to change my name.
The Bawdz and Modz experience.
There it is. That's what I'm going to title this episode. Follow it on Apple Podcasts for the audio version. Also on Spotify. DeanBlundell.com, our podcast network host. And, of course, those tuning in today via Facebook. Thank you. We're back on Facebook. I'm out of Facebook jail, Jesse. I had to go away for 30 days with no live streams because it was nudity thing. Anyways, anyone who's really interested in the full story, they can scroll back in previous episodes to find out. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks again, Jesse. And
thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.